Hello everybody, it's really lovely to be able to send you this message and to keep in touch with those of you still working from home. It's a slightly unusual assembly for us today because you're not all sitting in front of me in the hall, but this is something that we want to do over the next couple of weeks. We're going to take it in turns, me and Mr. Marks, to send home a message at the start of the week to the children at home. And I thought, even though it's not a traditional assembly, I'd start in the same way and share with you some amazing photos that I found online. These are by an English-based artist who uses petals and leaves and parts of plants that she finds, and she dries them and presses them and creates these amazing pieces of art of animals and insects. And what caught my eye was that this is something that perhaps you could have a go at doing at home. It might take a lot of practice to reach this level of skill, but it's something that you could still have a go with all of the flowers and plants that are growing at the moment. So look forward to seeing some of those if you give it a go. Now, as I said, I wanted to start by saying hello. It's felt a really long time since I saw some of you. As you know, we welcomed some children back into school last Monday, and we've had some children that have been with us right since the middle of March when we closed the school to some children. So although I have seen more and more children over the last couple of weeks, most of you are still at home. And that's because you're either in year groups that haven't yet been invited into school, or your parents have decided that they would rather you stayed at home for a little bit longer. So even though we haven't seen you for some time, I want you to know that you're still very much in our thoughts. We've enjoyed sharing stories with you via the website. We've enjoyed tweeting and sending you other messages. So though we haven't seen you face to face, you're still very much in our minds and still very much a member of Autumn Primary School. Now, I like stationery. I like pens and paper and pads and diaries and journals and notebooks, and I find that they're a great way of me keeping on top of all the things that I've got to do. Doing this assembly was one of the things on today's to-do list. And in September, I like to plan out the year ahead. And one of the nice things about working in schools is that you repeat the same thing again and again over the course of a year, and there's always a cycle. So there's always a carol service, there's always a Christmas dinner, there's always a summer fair. And we put those plans together and we start thinking about them very early on. And we don't just map out September, we map out the whole of the year. And for me, that map is a little bit like the map that you would use if you were going on a journey. So if I was going somewhere I didn't know, I'd look it up on a map. I'd probably use an app on my phone now, and I'd start off from my home, and then I would put in the destination and I would work out the best route there. And when we start the school year, that's what we do. We think about where we'd like you to get by the end of the year. We put a lot of thought into the things that we're going to do with you, put a lot of thought into who's going to work with you and who's going to be in your classes. And so we started last year with a very clear idea about where we wanted to go. A bit like when you're starting the journey and you know that you want to get from Cambridge to Peterborough and that you're going to get there at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But as you also know from going on a journey, sometimes things don't go to plan. Sometimes this road works, sometimes there might be a car broken down, there might be an accident on the road, there might be red lights, there might be all manner of things, and you end up, you don't get there when you thought you were going to get there. You might have to go a slightly different route, you might have to take a detour, you might find that you're sitting waiting in your car a little bit. And that's what this year has been like. We started the year with a clear idea about where we were going to get, a clear picture of what June was going to be like. And then, as you know, we've had to do what everybody else has had to do, and that is we've had to rethink our plans because of coronavirus. It's meant that we've had to work in a different way as a school. We've had to adapt and change. We're having to set up work that we can send home for you. All kinds of things that we wouldn't ordinarily have done, but we're doing it with you at home, and it's meant that things have been slightly different. Now, if you were in school at the moment, this is one of the things that you would see in your classrooms. We've had to rethink our golden rules, and they're golden rules that are particularly for this period of time, this chunk of time when we're not quite open as a normal school, but we're not closed either. So the children in school at the moment are having to wash their hands much more regularly. We've had to space out their tables and chairs. They've got their own equipment on their table. We're keeping our 2-metre distance, and we're having to be very strict on this. We're having to adapt and change and be open-minded. Now, when my children were little, one of my favourite books to read to them was We're Going on a Bear Hunt. They're a lot older now, wouldn't want to sit down and read this book with me, but it's one of my favourite books because I think it's a really good story about how sometimes the plans that you've got don't always work out the way that you expected. And in this story, I'm sure you all know this story, the family set off and they're going on a hunt. They've got a clear idea about what they want to do, but they haven't yet realised the obstacles that are facing them. And as they go on their journey, it's not always an easy path. It's not always straight streets with nothing to knock you over. They go through many things, as you know. One of my favourite ones is the wood, when it's stumble, trip, stumble, trip, stumble, trip, and they have to make their way slowly on their journey of their bear hunt. And it's not easy. They get stuck in mud. They have to go through all manner of things. And one of the repeating lines in the story is that they can't go over it, they can't go under it. They've just got to go through it. And that's very much about what's happened in school this year. We've had to keep on going. It's not been easy. There's been some challenges, and we've had to find other ways around it. But as I've said to you in many assemblies, it can be a really powerful experience to have to face a challenge and to have to persevere and to be resilient and to get there in the end. And I'm sure a lot of you have spent some of the time over the last couple of months doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily have done with your families. You've been in your house much longer than you would normally be. But I know from seeing some of the things that you've sent on tweets and messages we've had from parents, some of you have done some amazing things. And there are good examples of people that have tried something new for the first time. Now, you know that in the past I've tried running. I got to the point where I was quite good, I thought. And then I've ended up, I kind of gave it up. And whilst we've been in lockdown, one of the things I have done to try and get out, get some fresh air, is I started running again. And it's been really hard and it's been a challenge and it's made my feet ache and it's left me out of breath. And sometimes I've not wanted to go on a run. But actually, the challenge of having to get out there and push myself to do something that's uncomfortable and difficult has made me a better runner, and I've actually beat my personal best now. So there's a lot you can gain from facing a challenge, even if it's one that you find really difficult and uncomfortable and one that you don't think you're going to get through. And that's very much how I feel about this year. We don't have a choice about whether we're going to get through this period. We've just got to do it. We've got to take a deep breath, work with our friends, be flexible, be brave, be courageous, and face those challenges head on. Now, I'm sending this message to you because you're one of the children that we still have working at home, and you're spending a lot of your time working at home. Your parents, the grown-ups that you live with, have had to take on a whole new role, which is that they're also having to be a teacher to you. And I know that can't be easy all of the time because a lot of them are also having to juggle their own jobs and responsibilities. But we've been sending home work all the way through these last few months, and we're going to carry on doing it all the way through to the end of this term. Some of you are hoping to come back to school before the end of term. Some of you, your parents have decided that they want to wait until September before you come back. What I do know from the pictures that I've seen and the message that you've sent your teachers, some of you have done some amazing things that maybe you wouldn't have done if you'd been in school. And although what you're doing is different from what you're doing would do if you were in school, you are still learning. You've carried on learning. You don't have to be in a classroom in a lesson with your teacher to learn. Those of you that have carried on practicing with your reading and Times Table Rock Stars and Purple Mash and all the other things that we've sent you, whether you're doing 1 hour a day or more, you're still learning. But you've also learned lots of valuable skills that maybe you wouldn't have done if you've been in school. I know a lot of you have done some amazing cooking, some great artwork, some puzzles. A lot of you are doing the Joe Wicks Keep Fit classes. You've made sure that your mind and your body have carried on being exercised. And that's going to mean that when we do see you again, you won't have missed out on too much. It might feel like a long time since we last saw you, but you've still been learning, and there's things that you'll be able to do that you wouldn't have been able to do had you not had this time at home with your parents. Now, the other thing I'm really proud of is that I know you've still been following the Pride Code. You don't have to be in the building to follow the Pride Code. I know you've carried on being polite, you're being respectful, you've had to show some amazing independence and having to get on with some things when maybe grown-ups have been busy. You're doing your best and you're showing that everybody matters. And I can see that in the children that are in school, but I know that you're also doing it at home. And this message really stands out for me. This isn't forever, it's just right now. It's probably been times where it's felt like life won't return to normal and that you won't ever come back to school or see your friends and your teachers, but you will. It might be taking longer than we'd hoped, but this is just a period of time. And at one point, we'll look back on this, and we'll probably laugh about some of the things that we've done, and we'll also think about all the amazing things that we achieved in that time. So please, if you're at home and if it's not going to be some time until you return to school, please don't feel too sad. We will see you again. It might take a little bit longer than you'd hoped. But what I do want you to know is that we miss you. It's really hard to be in a school as big as ours, and only to have 130 children in it. It's really, really quiet as I walk around the building. Mr. Marks and I aren't allowed into the classrooms. We're not allowed into the bubbles. So I see the children when I open the gate in the morning. Mr. Marks sees the children at his gate. But that's it. We don't see them again until we send them out at the end of the day. There's been no assemblies. We're not eating our lunch in the dining room. Teachers aren't going out on the playground at playtime or lunchtime because other people are doing that role. So it's been really strange, but we haven't seen you for some time and we really miss you. And it's reminded us what a special group of children we have at our school, what an amazing school Autumn Wistow is. And it makes us look forward even more to when you do come back. And when we do come back, we're going to hopefully welcome you with open arms. We're looking forward to you being back with your friends. I know some of you have started to play out again with your friends, sometimes with your mums and dads, to make sure that you don't get too close. But there will be a day at some point in the future when, as a school, we're back and we've got all 420 children under one roof. And I'm really looking forward to that day. So to finish where I started off, I have just bought my new journal, my one that I'll have ready for September, and I will be making plans. I'm looking forward to that first day when we have all of you back. I'm really looking forward to that first assembly when I get to stand in front of you. The year ahead won't be easy at all points. It won't be plain sailing. If we've learned anything from this year, it's to expect the unexpected, but also to know that with the right kind of attitude and the support of family and friends, there's nothing that we can't get through. And I'm really looking forward to having you back at Autumn Wistow Primary School and to seeing you in person, not just via a computer screen. And I want you to follow that Pride Code whilst you're working at home. Keep up with your reading, keep up with your timetable practice, keep on learning so that when we do see you, we can have the very, very best start. And I'm looking forward to that. I hope you're all well, I hope you're all taking care, and I shall see you soon.